story where during the whole Trump thing and people couldn't get in and out of the country and of people who were here illegally and not, and there was this major policing at the borders. You had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica.
Yes, I did.
And tell us a little bit about that with work, because you won some award thing. And but tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh my gosh, you're bringing my nightmares.
I know, but I think it speaks to how it dehumanizes the individual.
It does.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So I guess at that point I was a little bit misinformed, but my 2-year resident card was expiring 3 months before my trip. Okay. And when I Googled, I was like, oh, I can travel. I asked my attorney, and she's like, yeah, you should be fine, leaving the States and coming back to the States. She didn't look at the Costa Rican laws. And so I get there. I'm excited about my trip, and I'm passing immigration, and the officer's like, you can't come in. And I'm like,
Costa Rica.
To Costa Rica.
So you get through the U.S., all that, where you're going, and you get to Costa
so I'm leaving the U.S., and I get to Costa Rica, and they're like, you can't come in. And I'm like, why? And then they're like, because your resident card expires in 3 months, and it has to be valid for more than 6. And it was like maybe like 2 months and 30 days. I don't know. It was pretty close. And then I was like, what? And then they're like, yeah, you can't come in. You have to be sent back to the States. I mean, I was shocked. And then, as you know me, I went to the Costa Rican Constitution and looked at the immigration laws. And I said, no, it's not 3 months. It's 6. And then, anyways, I didn't qualify because mine expired pretty quick.
But you didn't know what's the purpose of the 3 months? It's just their
their law. But I was surprised, and I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? And then they're like, well, we have to send you back. And I'm like...
So that's where the fear hit between how do I get from here...
I was like, are they sending back to Ecuador or are they sending me to the U.S.?
Right. With everything that's happening right now and about illegal immigration and everything.
And I was thinking, does the immigration officer in the U.S. going to think I'm smuggling something? Because it's been like 24 hours since I left. And I was like... And I can imagine how people feel when they're coming into the U.S. and they get questions like this and they get in this little room, because all that happened to me in Costa Rica. Like, they're like, oh, so we have to ask you.
You're going in the little room. What happened?
They asked me questions about what was coming to Costa Rica and, if I could travel back and all these things and things about my, my permanent residency here. And I said, no, I can go back to the States because as long as my residency is valid, I can go back. But I got to be honest, I was bawling, crying. I was so scared.
But you have a criminal justice degree and some legal things. You're like, I know how to argue or at least.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going back. Like, you have to send me back to States. And then they're like, well, and it was American. Oh, sorry, I can't say what it was. Well, it was through an airlines. And I almost said what airline was. And the funny thing is, I get.
Oh, can we say American Airlines?
American Airlines, too late. Anyways.
Yeah, it's a podcast. It's a story.
Okay. So, in American Airlines. But here's the thing. They look at my passport and they look at my residency card in Kansas City. So they should have told me in Kansas City, American Airlines, hey, you can't travel. So I would have avoided myself all of this headache. But I didn't. They never told me. They just let me go in, with my almost expired
clearly
thing.
the borders aren't doing their job.
Exactly. So
Except
I'm like...
one, apparently.
Barely, but yes. So I'm like, okay... So I'm there in the room. They're asking me questions. They're like, okay, well, the airport apparently in Costa Rica closes at midnight. And they're like, our next flight leaves at 6 a.m. And then my legal background came out and I said, that's not my fault. In Kansas City, American Airlines let me fly. So you put me on a plane today. And they're like, well, we can't let you go into Costa Rica, but the airport's closing. And we don't have a flight to put you on. And I'm like...
You couldn't even get into the airport.
To get out of the airport. No, I had to be like on the standby zone, like the gates. Oh. And then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, you just find me a flight and you fly me back. And then they're like, well, we're going to try. And I'm like, what do I do if the airport's closed? And they're like, oh, you just sleep at the airport. And I'm like, what? And not only that, but they put an officer next to me that followed me the whole time to make sure I didn't fly into Costa Rica. Like, just run.
You're by yourself.
Yeah,
no
by
family,
myself.
no friends, no nothing.
Nothing.
Were you in San Jose?
Yes.
I've slept in that airport. It's
Oh
not
my
comfortable.
gosh. I was just like, no. And I'm like, you put me in a plane right now. And then they're like, but it's not our fault. And I'm like, it is your fault. I want to talk to the airlines person and I want to tell them that they need to put me in a flight back to the U.S. now. So they found me a plane, thankfully. But I had this
You
officer.
had no guarantee at that point if you were going to get back home.
No, I wasn't. I didn't. And I had the officer next to me, and I'm like, I felt like a criminal, almost. Like, oh my gosh. Like, there's an officer next to me the whole time. I couldn't even go pee without it. I told him, and I said, I need a drink. I know you want to have to be with me, but you're going to have to walk me to this bar because
I need a cocktail.
I need a cocktail
Do
and
you
food.
want one?
Yeah. He's like, I can have one on the job. But he was nice. He was a nice officer. But, like, almost made me feel like I was a criminal. And I was like, I didn't know that I wasn't able to go into Costa Rica with my expiring permanent resident card from the U.S. But the worst thing was the fear that I had being questioned back in L.A. by the immigration officer. Because I was like...
You got questioned again there.
Well, because I didn't. But I was afraid because of the whole thing that was happening. Because I was only gone for 24 hours. Why does an Ecuadorian leave for 24 hours and comes back to the U.S. right after? Like, I wasn't even out the U.S. for more than, like, maybe 24 hours.
So on that flight from Costa Rica to L.A., what was happening internally?
I had all my thoughts and arguments of the whole thing that has happened, so I wouldn't have any troubles in immigration. Like, I was petrified. Because... my family is here. I mean, well, my family's back home too, but my husband are here, my friends are here, my life is here. So I was really scared.
Were you able to communicate with them?
Yes, but here's the funny thing, and I tell this to people because they're like, I'm like, it's immigration officers see hundreds of people, and they do the best job that they can. But I'm already all nervous. I've slept in LA. I mean, it's been just a crazy day for me. And I have all my paperwork that I was rejected from Costa Rica just to show them why. And I literally go into the counter with this immigration officer. He's not even looking at me. And he's like, what's the purpose of your trip? And I say, oh, I'm just, going back home. Put your left finger, Mike. And I was ready to tell him my whole argument. And then they're like, your right finger. And I'm like, okay. Look at my paper. Goes, not my paper, just my resident card. Then they go, have a great day. And I'm like, I was like building up for it. I was like, I'm ready to tell you everything that happened to me. And anyway, so I didn't get questioned, thankfully. But, I was surprised because I was only out for 24 hours. It was pretty quick. I mean, I don't look very threatening, I don't think. But, I thought they will ask me, hey, what were you just out for 10 hours?
Yeah.
No, nothing.
So that was another hit. One of those hits that you're like, holy cow. Is it because I'm from Ecuador? Is it because I look like this? Like, why?
Yeah. He didn't even look at me. And I get it. They see tons of people. So I guess I tell everyone, just hopefully you get a nice one. And then they're nice to you. But yeah, I got no questions. And then it was funny because I was bringing my 2 bags that I didn't unpack, unfortunately. And I'm passing customs, and then the guy's like, what do you have there? And I'm like, you want to know? Like, I was so excited, and I told him all about it. He's like, wow, I shouldn't have asked. Because I was just telling him all about it. Because he's like, do you bring anything from Costa Rica? And I said, no.
No,
it's
it
the
didn't
same
even
stuff.
get there.
No, it didn't even get there. It's
Didn't
the
even
same
make
stuff.
it.